listening to the Agent Survival Guide podcast, a podcast for today's insurance agents. Informing, educating, empowering, improving the way you do business in an industry that's anything but static. In today's episode, we regularly talk about the importance of client retention here on the show. It's so important for insurance agents because when you engage your clients on a regular basis, you can keep them coming back for more. Recently, I had the privilege of sitting down with Rob Oxenford from AgentMethods to talk about some practical ways agents can do that. We talked through strategies, and he offered so many great ideas. It is a longer episode than we normally publish, but it is packed with great ideas, complete with how to execute them. Here's our conversation. I hope you enjoy it. So I think we will have you start out, if you can start by saying your name and your title.
Yeah, I am Rob Oxenford. I am the head of strategic partnerships at AgentMethods.
First and foremost, Rob, I want to say thank you for being here on the show today.
Well, thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
So one of the things we do like to talk about here, we always joke that, nobody really decided as they were going through high school or college that they wanted to get into the insurance industry. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you got into the industry and what led you to AgentMethods?
Well, first off, I'm going to say I'm the exception to the rule on that. So I actually grew up in the insurance industry. My dad was an insurance broker for about 42 years. So when I was growing up, my house was always filled with insurance agents. Our family friends were insurance agents. We went on vacation. It was with insurance agent sales meetings, you name it. So I actually became a licensed agent when I was in college as a way to pay for school. So I did that for 4 years. It worked out wonderfully. Ended up graduating with no debt because I was able to pay for it. Ended up going on from there to work for several carriers. And then I'd run different management teams for sales. And then I ended up actually owning my own agency for a while. Ended up growing that. It was a PNC agency. And then ended up actually selling it. Ended up being transitioning back to a carrier. And then got involved in InsurTech for a while. And then I actually ran into Aaron over a posting he had about 3 years ago. And him and I just started kind of chatting about different things I was doing, things that he kind of wanted to do with AgentMethods and so on. And then we had an opportunity at the beginning of the year. We kind of reconnected and decided it was a good time for me to come over and start helping him with partnerships with the kind of FMOs, carriers, everything like that. And that's how I ended up at AgentMethods. So, but I've been a licensed agent for 25 years now. So,
wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is,
won't ever let it go.
That's impressive. So you went into the family business. Now, as far as AgentMethods goes, can you tell us a little bit more, just briefly, about what AgentMethods does?
Sure. Yeah. So AgentMethods, really what we are is we are an automated marketing platform, which really is designed to give agents an online presence, but also to really help them build better relationships with their clients. And we do this by really creating processes that not only keep your clients engaged, but also give you back more time in your day. Really is the best way to say it. A lot of our agents utilize our system, end up spending about 47% less time on marketing each month. So it's 47% more time they can spend on with their current client sitting across from them or with their family, whatever they want to do with it. But we automate everything from their newsletters to their cross-email marketing campaigns, social media posting, also their scheduling, which is really important as we get through like AEP and everything like that. Having a lot of these different features like SOA, stuff like that built into the system. And then we also build websites for them too, because we want to make sure they're having a good professional website while staying compliant. That's the key. That usually comes up quite a bit.
That is very important.
Yeah. So we really focus on that in everything we do to make sure that the agents who use us can really not only trust what their clients are seeing, but then also just, relax knowing that we're monitoring that. Any changes, any CMS changes, things like that, we're implementing those into the system too. So, yeah.
Right. One of the first early episodes, I think that we did, actually, we were talking about back 6, 7, 8 years ago, we were really hammering home the idea of a website for agents because that wasn't always the common thought that you needed to have this online presence. And I remember you guys were on that list really as the only the only company on the list. And what I loved about Agent Methods is the fact that you are so dedicated to compliance and that you understand the industry from the agent's perspective, so that everything, there are other companies out there that, sure, they can give you the idea of like the marketing software and how to market and all of that, but they're not exactly up on the compliance side of things. But I would have to say, like, if I had to give you guys your value proposition, I think that would be it, is that you understand that piece, and that's really important.
Yeah, we really focus on it. Like I would say, like a lot of people say it, but we actually invest in quite a bit of it. We have a company called Telos Actuarial who does all of our reviewing of our materials and stuff. And then also even with like, a partner like Ritter and stuff like that, one of the first people we end up talking to is actually your compliance department, because they want to know who they are, so we can, send things over them to take a look at, because we really want to make sure that, not only is it things that say CMS is good with, but that the states are good with, that you're good with, to make sure we're all on the same page. Because a lot of times it's just changing language, and we have the ability, since everything is so digital, to make those changes quickly. So yeah.
Right. And that's something I think sometimes we forget as we are maybe generalizing marketing ideology, that there is a federal level to it, but then beyond that, there is a state level. And when it comes to the rules of each of the states, as far as their insurance departments, man, that is all completely different across the board. So. Yeah. Now, we've talked a lot about different marketing strategies here. We've talked about how agents can market their business. You are here specifically today to share about relationship marketing. Can you give us a quick definition of what relationship marketing is?
Yeah. So relationship marketing really is focusing more on really building good relationships with your existing clients, but really more people you've already had some connection with, some people you've already had an interaction with. Because really, if you look at marketing, there's kind of two sides to it. There's acquisition marketing and relationship marketing. Acquisition marketing is really focused on like getting in front of people that you don't know. This is what a lot of companies focus on when they're like, say, buying leads or doing Google ads or doing like pay-per-click ads, things like that. You want to get in front of someone you don't know, which unfortunately is a very heavy lift to first not only make that connection, but then also when you have those initial meetings, you have to tell them who you are. There's a lot of time spent on really kind of selling them on the idea of you and what you can do for them. When we look at relationship marketing, there's a lot of data that really shows how not only is it more economical, but it's actually more successful, because you're doing two things with it. One, you're either finding additional sales opportunity with existing clients, or you're also being in front of them so that they refer people to you. Because we all know, we all love referrals. Don't get me wrong. I think that, we're built on a relationship business, right? But when you have that referral come into your office, when they've already had that glowing recommendation from a current client, it makes a huge difference. Right. You're so much further down that road of actually making the sale when you're actually sitting down with them. And so when I say relationship marketing, really what I'm talking about is different ways to keep your current clients engaged and current people you had interactions with, keeping you top of mind, making sure that, when they're talking to friends about insurance, you're the first person that comes up to them. That also, if they have additional insurance needs, are reaching out to you to get your opinion before they do anything else. But also another reason I would like it is it kind of builds this, I hate to use the word cage, but I'm going to use it. Build kind of a cage around your current client. I don't know if you heard the book, The Wedge. It talks about like, how do you get into someone and really start kind of opening that door. And when you've had this wonderful relationship built with your current clients, when they do start getting postcards and emails from other agents or either phone teams or something like that, it really just kind of ricochets off, because they don't know, Rob's my agent, I don't need to talk to you, and they just hang up the phone. And I think that's part of it too, is not only is it finding additional sales opportunities, but really kind of solidifying, your current client. They're going to stay with you and really increasing retention overall. So yeah.
I like that concept of a cage, because I think it does, you could say shield, but a shield only really deflects from one side. So the cage is it's the wraparound thing. And it's a very good visual as far as if you're talking about the different facets of your marketing business and, your strategy that you're putting together. So
Yeah. Hmm.
now that we kind of have that working definition, what are some of the benefits to approaching both of those avenues? Obviously
Hmm.
we are concerned about acquisition. That's very important.
Yeah.
But what are some of the benefits to relationship marketing for agents?
Sure. Like I said, the first and foremost one that I think a lot of agents and honestly a lot of companies in general don't really focus on when they're thinking about marketing is number one, retention. All of us agents, we want to build a business. We want to build a successful business that we can either, pass on to our kids or sell someday, things like that. But really, in order to do that, we have to build a foundation of clients that we're growing to kind of get that. I kind of call it the snowball effect. It keeps growing
Hmm.
and growing and growing because so many times, you'll talk to agents and like, well, I wrote, 100 clients, last month, right?
Hmm.
But, if you lose 50 of them over the course of the year, you're still starting at a deficit every time. So to kind of build
Hmm.
on top of that. So number one, relationship marketing, it's keeping them engaged that, you're their agent, that when they have an insurance question or they have other insurance needs, that you're the one they reach out to.
Hmm.
So you can have that conversation. Even if it's something you don't sell, at least you have the control of the situation to kind of point them to someone who's maybe sending you referrals, having a lot more control. So number one, it's retention. Relationship marketing is great for that. And then number two is really that referrals. We see that where if we're staying top of mind with our clients, they're having conversations all the time. Like I always use the example of my mom, who I love to death by. I just had breakfast with her yesterday. But she is 74 now. And when she's sitting around with her friends, they talk about Medicare. They talk
Hmm.
about Medicare Advantage, Medicare supplements. So, and they're constantly having these conversations at our coffee groups and things like that. And agents' names do come up. If someone had a
Hmm.
good experience, they're going to tell that group to 5 or 6, hey, Rob set me up exactly what I needed, answered all my questions. And the thing is, like I said, that top of mind is so key because you never know when that's going to happen. So you have
Hmm.
to make sure you're always doing different kind of strategies to stay in front of them. But then the other one is that cross-sell opportunity. And I think this is sometimes where we as agents sometimes, I don't want to say drop the ball, but I don't think we invest so much in it because like, for instance, like right now, we're looking at Medicare, looking at AEP. Right now, we're really focused on that. And sometimes when we have these conversations with our clients, they don't realize that, oh, by the way, I also sell long-term care or, oh, also
Hmm.
I have a life license and sell final expense and things like that. So it's also about making sure your clients are aware of what you offer, who you
Hmm.
are, where you can help them, but then also educating the clients on maybe gaps in coverage they might have because we are the lucky few, I always say, who get to think about risk all day
Yes.
and get to think about, what is the plan for us and what's the plan for our clients and so on. And we need to make sure we're communicating that to our clients, that they're aware that,
Hmm.
hey, you know what, barrel costs are going up. Have you thought about that?
Hmm.
You just bought a new house. What does that look like from, a tax perspective or your family staying in the home and so on? And you want to make sure that they're having that conversation with you. So it all kind of goes back to that thing I said about staying in front of them, communicating them with on a regular basis so they know
Hmm.
if there's changes coming, what do you offer, all these things like that. And it's all about just being in front of them again and again and again, whether that's, newsletters, social media, emails, postcards,
Hmm.
magazines, anything. So they're like, hey, I think insurance, I think Rob. That's really what we want all our clients to do. Am I right? So,
Absolutely. Yeah. And it is funny that you mentioned, that's something that your mom and her friends speak about often
mhm.
because I feel like my mom is pretty much exactly the same. She's right there. She's little on the younger end of that, maybe by 2 or 3 years, but it's
Hmm.
still
Hmm.
very much so something that they talk about all the time. And it's interesting just from my perspective, hearing her talk about it and hearing her try to figure out what plans other people have based on what they're telling her. And it's just, ooh, it's wild. But
Well, they all have
yeah,
medical issues. I hate to say that when you get to a certain age, every one
yes,
of your friends has been to the doctor in the last month, basically what it comes down to. And that's what they talk about. But
yes.
the most interesting part, which just in conversations I had with her, is like how they also talk about where, say, their coverage is missing some particular
Hmm.
benefit or,
Yes.
and how they've found a way to work around it. And an interesting part when I've had conversations with my mom about that, I'm like, have you ever told them just to call their agent? Because I guarantee if that's something that's important to them, there's a policy that will cover that for them.
Right.
But they need to communicate to their agent about it.
Yeah. Yeah, they're trying to figure out the hacks and all of that kind of stuff, and there probably is an easier way.
Yes, I
So,
guarantee there's an easier way.
yes. Oh my goodness. So, what about thinking about from, say I'm an agent starting out, what can I expect from a cost standpoint as far as relationship marketing goes? Is that something that I'm going to be paying a lot of money for these efforts as opposed to maybe the acquisition marketing route? You did say there was a lot of effort involved in that.
So especially if you're just starting out, I think the best thing is, and I will say this, the way I was able to build my agency was by when I first started out was putting in several processes and, kind of routines more than anything that I just got used to doing, especially first starting out when you're having those conversations and you're meeting a client for the first time. The one thing is start talking about annual reviews. That way they're aware of it. They know it's coming up. They know that when they start receiving emails or phone calls from you leading up to open enrollment or any other time of the year, they're used to it. Like, oh yeah, Rob said he was going to reach out to me in September to make sure we got on his calendar. So first I'm going to kind of touch on some things that, really aren't very cost heavy, especially if you're new, which is a good place to start. Like I said, setting up annual reviews is key. Another one is, getting on social media. From a social media standpoint, there's a lot of ways to do it. We help agents with really posting daily form when they've got, say, a large book or a large following. When you're just starting out, you want to make sure you have a page, for yourself, for your agency, that people realize that you are an insurance agent, but you don't want to inundate them with just things about, products you're selling first and foremost. You want to make sure it's about you. But the reason I say that about social media is because when we look at, especially people over 65, more and more are adopting the internet. I still have agents that come up and tell me like, oh, my clients don't use the email or my clients don't use the internet. And I would have believed you about 10, 15 years ago, But today, that's not really the case. Most people who are T65 have been working with computers the last 10, 20 years of their work. It's not a new concept to them. Even when we see different, graphs and different polls they do, I know in like 2023, I think over 65, it was like 88% are using the internet daily. This year, it's going to be over 90%. So people are there. And the number one thing they're doing online is social media over 65. Because that's where there's, not only communicating with friends, family, but it's also where they're seeing pictures of their grandkids. So from a relationship marketing standpoint, you need to be there too. Simple as that. And just start posting stuff about your day, about, things going on in your office, or, hey, just finished up 10 appointments. I really need this drink, things like that to really kind of reinforce that, hey, I'm a person who's working in this industry, but you're getting in front of them. So those are two first things that are really cheap to do. I mean, really, it's just more keeping a calendar or just really getting that habit of posting on a daily basis. After that, you start to get a little bit more where there's either going to be two things. One, either it's going to take time out of your day to do, or you're going to have to kind of pay a service to do it, right? And number one of those is newsletters. The reason I love newsletters is it keeps clients engaged on a monthly basis. They're getting that information from you. Some of it can be product stuff. Some of it can be whatever. But the key with that, though, is that they're getting used to hearing from you. They're getting used to getting email from you. So when you do other things like cross-marketing or send out a mailer or something else about final expense or long-term care or so on, they're used to it. They're going to open it because like, oh, I get an email from Rob every month. This is just another one of those. I'm going to open it. So those newsletters, like I said, either you'll find people who are great at it, who do it on a monthly basis, but it takes 1, 2, maybe 3 days for them to get it all put together and set and out. Or you can buy a service like ours, AgentMethods. We do newsletters for everyone and get those out on a monthly basis. But when you're first starting out, like I said, I remember, money is finite, especially when you're first starting out. You're just starting to get those first commissions and so on. And there's a lot of different, I'd say, marketing plans you can do, especially when it comes to cross-marketing newsletters. So when you kind of reach that level of like 100, maybe 150 clients in your book. So maybe you kind of get that to your second year and stuff. And then for me, that's really when I would start investing in like programs of really having like something like AgentMethods, who's going to be kind of doing that outreach to your clients and so on. Because at that point, once you've reached a book about that size, your time becomes very valuable of whether you're sitting with a client or spending an hour on a newsletter. Obviously, sitting with the client is going to generate money for you. The other one's going to generate connection, which is good. But the bigger and bigger that book gets, like, I mean, I was talking to someone the other day who has about 700, Medicare clients that they're having to get through this year, right? And the thought of doing anything but sitting in an appointment is just off the calendar. They're not going to do anything, and I think that's something we have to keep in mind is that when you're first starting out, you're going to be putting in 10, 12-hour days, getting some of the stuff information out there. But also the thing I love, though, is when you have partners like yourself, you have materials, you have some of that already kind of pre-built you can utilize. and take advantage of it. I used everything. My social media when I had my agency was, I'd say 50% stuff I had, 50% from carriers and I was working with to kind of stick it out there.
Use what you can get for free. Absolutely.
And same thing goes for that. And when you're first starting out, just be mindful of that. There's little things you can do to just keep engaged with your clients. But as you scale bigger and bigger, you have to start kind of implement systems that are going to automate that for you. And that's like where like AgentMethods or other services kind of come in to really show like, hey, we'll email them every month. We'll do the email campaigns. We'll schedule a calendar because you need to focus on the client in front of you to even build that relationship even deeper. So, yeah.
Yeah. And that's how you get that time back to be able to deal with those clients as your book is growing. You have to take some of those administrative tasks and put them as somebody else's responsibility, basically.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. You did talk a little bit about the difference between relationship marketing and acquisition marketing. If you had to really say the key difference that those two have that agents really should know and be mindful of, what is the main difference that you want to get across to agents?
I would say how I look at it is this way. If I had to have a conversation about insurance, right? Would I rather talk to someone who has no idea who I am, who has never met me before, doesn't even know if I even have an actual license, or would I talk to someone who either already has a product with me or someone who came from a client who had a great experience? You know, I still remember this is very early on in my career when I was doing life, health, and mutual funds. I sat down with a client. It was a referral from a current client I had. I sat down, started going into my spiel, which I had practiced 100 different times, you know, so I knew exactly what to say. I got about 5 minutes into it and he said, hey, you can just stop. And I was like, oh, I lost this. He goes, I just want to do what Ted did. Can you just sign me up for that? I'm like, yes. You know, I didn't want to talk myself out of a sale, but it was that thing is that Ted had laid so much groundwork for me that he said, hey, Rob did this for me. He got me covered. He got my wife covered. You know, I've also said I got some child policies and I'm also putting this much in a mutual fund. Now, the thing was, I got that set up and told him, I said, hey, when we do your annual review, we're going to sit down and review this to make sure this is the right fit for you. But let's at least get this started because, you know, getting him into underwriting is the hardest part. So getting him into underwriting was my key there. But I think it goes back to that. Like so many times, you know, if you look at these big corporations and so on, who can spend so much money on, you know, really trying to, you know, convince someone to say, buy a Ford, right? You want to buy a Ford because we've got these engines, we've been around this long, yada, yada, yada. Most of their commercials are that, right? But if you think about a company like Tesla, they're a great example. You start seeing them everywhere, right? There's no Tesla commercials. There's no Tesla Labor Day sales, anything like that. Really how they've done it is entirely on relationship marketing. They found a small base that was very passionate about what they were doing. They acquired that. And then those people have just continually talked and referred people back to them and so on. And they built a whole company off that. And insurance has to be that same way. If you treat your client great, they have a wonderful experience, and you make sure that they remember you whenever they're having that conversation, your business will grow naturally without having to spend $15,000 a month on Google ads for a bunch of clicks from people who were accidentally clicked my name because they were trying to find something else, you know, and so on. And that's really what it is. It's more just already breaking down some of those barriers when you first talk to someone, because some of that's already been broken down for you 100%. So, yeah.
Okay. Now that we have that set up, you have touched on a lot of different ways that relationship marketing works, and really how obviously the focus is on the relationship that you have with your client and how you can help them, how you can better serve them, how you can take what you've already done for that person, turn them into an advocate for you, or further help them with other needs. What really is the key to being successful at relationship marketing?
The key is really staying in front of them 100%. Obviously, you know, treating them well, you're going to do that anyway because you want them to stay a client. But really, the relationship marketing really kind of blooms and really starts to show all the effort you put in by staying in front of them. It does several things. Like I said, staying top of mind. You don't think about it, but you know, how many times where someone's had a conversation about, let's say about insurance, and they walk away and like, oh, I should have brought up Rob. things like that, where if I had, they had talked to me or seen something from me that day, or even, that week, they're more likely, oh, you should talk to Rob. Here's his phone number. Or even I will forward you his newsletter, or I will forward you the social media post I just saw from him today. The key is there to making sure that they know who you are and that you're there for them. What always kind of let's think about is the hospital. Like, I don't ever want to go there. Do I know it's there?
Right.
Yes. If I need something, is it there? It's an emergency? Yes. And we want to make sure we're kind of instilling that in our clients, that even though they're not talking to us every day, that we're there for them, because even when you look at where there's a lot of companies out there who are trying to, I'll say insurtechs, are trying to create some different systems there that are really trying to kind of cut out that agent, and, they've seen some success, definitely mainly on the front end when it comes to that kind of acquisition, because they're spending lots and lots of money on that.
Right.
But the reason a lot of those people end up leaving those companies is because when it really comes to the service side and that hand holding, when they do have to file a claim or when they do have a question about coverage, they want to have a conversation with someone, because everyone believes that they have very unique needs, right? And they want to make sure they have someone who understands those needs and is listening to them. And so that's where we can shine, especially as agents. Not only can we be that shoulder to lean on, that ear to listen, but to know that the ear is always there and that we're active in this industry. So that's why I always say about the social media and the newsletter, even cross email marketing, is just more getting in front of that, like, hey, remember how we talked 12 months ago? I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. I still sell. I still answer all the questions. And if you, your family, or anyone needs anything, I'm here for you. That's always such a big thing. I know in like my agency, I used to have, so it was a PNC agency. I had CSRs running my phones and stuff like that. And I always had I'll say a rule. If someone called in to add a vehicle or anything like that, they'd pull up the client profile, and you could see where there was, say, no information, whether it was a life policy or a long-term care policy or something like that. And, I really worked on a lot of training that when someone called in, if you saw the blank saying, hey, I noticed we don't have any information for your life policy, who do you have that with? And the reason I wanted to do that was two things. One, if there was an opportunity for a sale there because they didn't have it, I wanted to make sure they had that conversation with me. But also number two was that when they passed away, as I say, I had no idea who their spouse was going to call. If they were going to call me because I had their other lines of insurance, I wanted to be like, hey, Bob didn't have it with me. He had it with the guy down the street. Here's his contact number.
Right.
Once again, just providing that extra level of service. But it opened up so many sales of like, hey, I didn't know you guys actually sold that. Can I get a price from you too? So I think it's just having those conversations and letting them know that, hey, I'm here for you for any insurance needs, any questions you might have. And my door is always open.
Yeah. And the way that you just phrased that was so nonchalant. If I heard that over the phone talking to someone, I wouldn't think that I was being sold to, or that anybody had a pitch or anything ready in the background, just ready to go right there. So yeah, that's nice phrasing there.
Oh, I always felt when I was usually training my new CSRs, I said, here's what you're going to get a response of. Either A, I have it through blank, and it's like, okay, that's great. Or it's two, oh, I have it through work. And like, hey, that's great. We might look at some other coverage. So I'm going to add that to your next annual review with Rob to make sure we're talking about that. If they say, oh, I don't have it, they're like, hey, I'm going to send Rob a note to reach out just so you can have a conversation. Because I always told him, I said, you guys don't have to sell it. That's my job. But if you can open the door for me, that's huge. That gets me most of the way there. Just let's get some thinking about it, because we all have these wonderful systems that we utilize, that we have people's information in there, that we have, not only them, but say their children and so on and so on. And it's just looking for kind of that data you already have. Like, where is the niche? Where is it a gap in their coverage? Or is it, oh, maybe I should talk to their kids about life insurance and so on. It's kind of building off that. All of that's relationship marketing. Once again, your existing client, what can I find an opportunity with?
Right. So how would an agent go about getting started? You had mentioned social, you had mentioned some of these different strategies, like what you just mentioned with kind of bringing up that conversation as you're on the phone, hey, who do you have this coverage with? There's a blank here. Can we get this filled in? Where would you start as an agent just starting out?
Just starting out, first and foremost, we've talked quite a bit about a lot of things like social media, newsletters, stuff like that. And one thing that's kind of common through all those is that even if you are doing those and you're really getting in front of your clients, you still need to have a place to direct them back to. So, when I talk about websites, it comes up quite a bit, obviously being with AgentMethods, because we do design some amazing websites for our agents. But, even if it's just getting a simple landing page or something, because, we find that having a web presence does a bit of credentializing that, hey, I
Mhm.
have invested money. I do have a spot where I have my contact information that is open to the world. I'm not
Mhm.
hiding in an alley trying to sell you, med sup somewhere. Yeah, anyone can reach out to me, the state,
Right.
CMS, anyone. But also, clients want to do business with someone that's easy to work with. So when
Mhm.
I say about doing a website, not only is it a point to get to contact with you, but to be able to set up an appointment, to get the information they need in a quick and efficient way. So you can do all these things, say, like I said, social media, newsletters, cross email marketing, scheduling. But if you don't have like a place to refer back to, like even though
Mhm.
I'm like in my office right now, right? Clients aren't coming in here. Clients aren't
Right.
sitting down with me at any point, but they still want to be able to call me. And if I'm not
Mhm.
in their phone, they want to know the way to get a hold of me. Or even if they tell a friend, like, hey, you need to talk to Rob, they want to be able to way that someone can Google, say,
Mhm.
Rob Oxenford and get a hold of me and find my information. So having some sort of landing page, even if it's like I said, basic, but obviously when you're trying to get to more of the information side of things, and that's really where like Agent Methods comes in, is that we can build a website that not only looks beautiful, but has a lot of functionality from setting up appointments, getting a hold of you, even having a lot of information on the products I offer. Because that goes
Mhm.
back to what I was talking about before about clients having to know what you do, right?
Mhm.
We may be sitting down on one specific appointment and there may or may not be rules around what we can actually talk about with that client in that meeting, right?
Right.
And so it might cause some follow-up meetings to let them know what else we do. But if they can go to our site to set up a meeting like, oh, I didn't realize that Rob offered these 6 lines of insurance. I'm currently
Mhm.
doing, this through someone down the street who I hate, but Rob's been great for these other 2 things. I should talk to him. You know
Right.
what I mean? So I feel like that's having a space that people can realize what you do, who you are, how long you've been in the industry, how you run your office. I think that's so huge. I feel like as agents, now, like I said, I grew up around agents. I've known them my entire life. I've known some great ones. I've known some horrible ones. But I always say is that for us, there are those agents, unfortunately, who aren't great, who may be fly-by-nighters, whatever. But for us, if we can set a standard and really make
Mhm.
sure that, hey, we are agents, we are professionals, we're here to take care of our clients and really put that forth, that kind of noise goes away. They start
Mhm.
relying on us. They start talking to me on a daily basis, well, talking to me a weekly, annual basis, maybe. Daily basis. All my clients can call me every day if they want. But my, my point I was trying to make is like, having those conversations and realizing that I am a professional and I am
Mhm.
here and it's easy to do business with me. At that point, that kind of cage I talked about, those other agents that are maybe not great, you're trying to get in there, that's not a thing I have to worry about anymore because they
Mhm.
know what I offer, they know what I'm there for. And having a spot where they can always get that information or always get a hold of me or even see, copies of that newsletter I just sent out. Like, oh, I
Right.
can't find the email, but I know where to get it off Rob's website and so on.
Mhm.
I think that's so key. At Agent Methods, one thing I've always appreciated about it is kind of back on the compliance thing is that we do take care of that. When I set up
Mhm.
my website with Agent Methods, I was just blown away, to be completely honest. I'd used a lot of different services, like even with my own agency and so on.
Mhm.
And I had never used Agent Methods till I came on board here. And just the ability to add a vertical and suddenly it has all these articles and stuff that's all written because content is, I always say, the killer with most websites. You have to either create it or keep it up to date. So, and I think if you're going in the intention that you want this to be an information source for your clients,
Mhm.
then you want to make sure you're investing in something like that. If you're just wanting a landing page, it's got your phone number, there's a lot easier around that, but
Mhm.
still has that same function that someone's on, sees one of my posts on social media. They know to click through like, oh, here's Rob's number, here's his
Mhm.
email address, here's his everything I need to know about who Rob is and what he does. And I think that's really key to kind of that first step of kind of getting out there. It's just kind of
Mhm.
funneling it back. I don't know, maybe that's the best way to say it. All rivers run to the ocean. I don't know.
Right. Well, it helps. I mean, from a marketing standpoint, the whole point is to you have what we call a CTA, a call to action.
Mhm.
You have
Yeah.
to have some place for that. What is the action that you want them to take? If it is indeed going to this site, you need to have a site to send them to. And for the most part, if you're thinking about any kind of digital action that people are taking, for the most part, it is going to be that. It is going to be
Mhm.
navigating to a website. You might be taking different actions when you get there, but that's going to be the action that you want them to take, getting in touch with you. So it's either going to be that website or it's going to be that phone call. How are they going to find that number? Because nobody remembers phone numbers anymore. They're going to go to your website to find it.
Honestly, on that point, the one thing I've always loved about websites as a whole is you can be very dynamic. You can go out there and make changes and stuff, but you have more control over what that call to action is when they get there. So like, for instance, most of the year, my website says, schedule an appointment or give me a call. Very two basic things. No matter what, I want you to, get in front of me. But during like, say, AEP or, ACA enrollment, if I have a self-enroller, that's my first and foremost. Like, hey, if you can do this, click here, or fill out this, or so it kind of goes informations. But I have so much more control because they're on my page, and I can have different, whether it's visuals or different language. It's really pushing them to like, click here, as opposed to, other aspects where I'm trying to get someone on the phone to do something or something like that. We're very visual people as humans. So being able to have someone go there and really kind of reinforce that call to action of like, hey, it's that time of year, we need to get together. We want to make sure we have a conversation to make sure you're okay in what you have and so on. And I think a website so much helps with that. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying with like relationship marketing is like, it's all these little things that make it easy to get a hold of me, easy to know I'm information. I'm in front of you and I'm coming off as an expert. That's another thing too.
Right.
We always want to make sure that they know that we're an insurance professional.
Right.
We're in this for the right reasons. We're here to help people and so on. And all these little things can help do that with kind of strengthen that relationship. So we can build a business, so we can grow it with referrals and cross sales and everything like that into this massive enterprise that we end up leaving to someone someday.
We hope that's the topic for another episode, how to plan your exit from the market. You have touched a little bit on this, the reason that retention is so important. You've given us a couple different examples. Can you talk a little bit about, I know you probably might not have the exact stats, and I certainly don't have them in front of me either, but the difference between the cost of acquisition versus retention, and just why we say focusing on retention is so important just from that standpoint.
Sure. I will say this is that I don't know the exact stat of what it takes for someone, say, to get a sale out of someone acquisition versus relationship marketing. But I do know that if you have two companies that are, say, one is focused entirely on acquisition marketing and doing, say, pay-per-click ads, everything like that, versus relationship marketing, to get the same outcome, the acquisition marketing will spend 3 times as much.
Wow.
Because, the thing is, especially on pay-per-click, I think that's a great example. On those ones, you are paying every time someone clicks. Whether they purchase from you or not, you're paying for them to click on it. Same with the ads. I think there's a time and place for everything. My marketing obviously exists, and you really have to try a lot of things to see what's going to work best for you and your group. But I always think of myself, and that's usually what I think about, because as an agent, I want to work with people who are like me. Simple as that. People who I can have a conversation with about, summer in Iowa or something like that. That's the people I want to work with. So when I think about that, I was like, what would work best with me? What am I going to respond to? And when I think of, say, like Facebook ads, I'll be completely honest, my brain kind of filters them out. I usually don't even see them either on the sides or even when it's coming through. But at the same time, my agent, who actually handles my home and auto and also some of my life policies and things like that, if he sent me anything, I'm going to read it. His name's Chris. I guarantee I've read every piece he's ever sent to me or anything like that. And I think that same idea I always have to think about, like, hey, if I want to get a hold of me, and what would I respond to? That's where that comes into. And the thing I love about relationship marketing is some of these things, like I said, we did talk about different automated systems that can take care of you, but some of them aren't even that. It's just having, sending an email when you think about someone, or sending a newsletter. Even if it's something very simple, getting out in front of your clients. The nice thing is about, like, when you have systems like us, AgentMethods and other ones out there, the thing I've always loved about AgentMethods is that, really, once you've reached a size, you have enough clients where it becomes, like I said, cost effective to have someone come in and actually send those things out and really give me back my time to focus on other parts of my business. The thing is if I've already started doing the newsletters, and I'd say from day one, the one client who was getting the newsletter from me every month or so on, once I've built to a point is that I can keep doing those exact same things that have been successful for me in the past going forward, So when you actually look at those two, when you're first starting out, you might jump on that idea of like, hey, I need to get in front of as many people as possible who I don't know, right? I think everyone has that kind of knee-jerk reaction first starting out. I'm going to buy, $10,000 in leads a month or something. And then next year I'm going to really go after, I'm going to double it and do 20,000 a month or something like that. But so many times it's not going to give you the same results. Am I right? So like, even though you're buying twice as many leads, there's a lot of question on, say the quality of those leads, kind of the amount of time you have to spend with a new customer in, like I said, getting them to buy you and second to buy the product. Whereas on the relationship marketing, if you already have that relationship, you're saving time from a standpoint because they've already bought from you. They already know who you are. But also the little things you're doing from a cost standpoint are so much less. Like I talked about, I know I kind of threw out some astronomical numbers when I said like 10,000. I think, on average, someone spends between 1,000 to 1,500 on leads, right? We look at like a system like ours that is, doing all these things to keep your clients engaged and retention, we're $299 a month. Like that's where we look at, we come in, it's a fixed cost and we really help with kind of get in front of your current book to let them know, hey, this is what I do. But, it's a combination of everything. I find more success relationship marketing, but, you do you.
That's very good advice. Obviously, he wants you to do relationship marketing and he wants you to do relationship marketing with Agent Methods.
Yes,
but
I do.
Yeah, I think what I would also stress is that, and you've said this a couple times, is that it's not just when it comes to marketing, there's not really just one strategy. It's often a mix of a couple different types of strategies. I mean, even within relationship marketing, you have social media marketing within that. You have social media marketing within acquisition marketing. As far as the relationship side goes, how does an agent know that they've been successful with their efforts? What is the response that they will get if they've done it right?
Yeah, that's a very good question. There's a couple of things I would say are key indicators. Number one is you're seeing an increase in your referrals. You're seeing an increase of your current clients sending you additional people that they say, hey, you need to talk to Rob, or hey, they should be talking to you, and so on. The other thing is actually when you're starting to see an increase in sales around cross marketing. And the reason I say that is because the nice thing is about insurance, and I've always loved this, is, when you have, say, a health license, there's a certain, you can sell Medicare, MedSup, ACA, all these different products that fall under that thing. Same on the life side. You got life, you got annuities, and so on that all kind of fit under that license. It takes some time to, obviously get, appointments and so on. But when you start seeing increases in some of these other kind of, say, dental plans or anything else that's kind of ancillary outside your main focus, I think that's really the really good telling as well. I mean, referrals are amazing. I love those. And those coming in, I think, if we have a good enough relationship, we'll always be seeing those. But when we start seeing that cross marketing and start seeing a jump in sales from suddenly this like final expense or something to the point where it's paying for a lot of these things. I talked to an agent a while back that he got set up with Agent Methods, got everything ready to go, did his first cross marketing campaign. And it was an annuity one. And he ended up getting 4 sales in that first week off the campaign that actually paid for our service for the next 5 years. Like it's things like that. So obviously, we've built these business around doing something specific. So let's say it's MedSups. That's where we've done that for years, for my money. When you start doing these other products and start seeing a good response from your clients, you're like, oh, Rob's doing that now. I need to take a look at that. Or, oh, Rob, it's now, hey, I don't have that. I need to talk to Rob. I think that's where you can really show that you've built a good relationship where they're trusting you outside even just that normal one. But it adds revenue for your agency. It adds, additional clients. And then also back on the retention, I'm sorry, I didn't even use this fact before. If clients purchase multiple lines of coverage with you, it creates this wonderful stickiness that I always love to provide. So if someone has one policy with you, it's about a 50-50 chance whether or not they're going to stay with you. If you get 2 lines of coverage with them, it jumps up to around somewhere between 80 and 85%. But if they have
big jump.
If they have 3 lines of coverage with you, it's about 98%.
Wow.
That they will stay with you. Basically, they'll be with you until they don't need insurance anymore. There will be some reason that they leave, basically what it comes down to. So that's where you're more connected with them. You're more there at Risk Advisor, or, you're their agent no matter what. Yeah. Your opinion matters most. So I think that's really where relationship marketing really really starts to show how much of a benefit it is when your clients are looking to you for multiple products, or at least reaching out to you first. As soon as something insurance comes up, they call you, and then you either sell them a product or advise them on who they need to talk to. That's huge. That to me is the perfect relationship cage.
Bringing it on back to the cage there. As far as Agent Methods goes, you've talked about the social media automation. You've talked about newsletters. You mentioned the websites. Is there anything else that you guys offer to help with relationship marketing that maybe we missed?
Yeah, probably the biggest one that we see, especially this time of year, as we go through AEP, ACA, and even towards the end of the year, to be honest with you, is our scheduler. Our scheduler is very robust. When I mentioned earlier about making sure it's easy for your clients to do business with you, this is key. So many times for years, I did this too, get emails back and forth, finding a time. I'm looking at my calendar, looking at their calendar. On average, it takes about 15 minutes of back and forth on emails or phone calls to actually set up an appointment, which doesn't sound like a lot. I'll be the first one to say it does not sound like a lot when you're 15 minutes. But when I think of 10 appointments, that's 2.5 hours out of my day setting up 10 appointments. That's when I realized that I need to make it easier to do business with me. And when you have an online scheduler, one thing that we offer with ours that really kind of sets it apart is we take care of a lot of the paperwork and other regulatory things. Once again, going back to compliance, we want to make sure he's compliant. So during like AEP, if someone comes in and the client wants to set up an appointment with you, first off, it's going to figure in the 48-hour rule. So you won't see any appointment 48 hours. But also it gives the opportunity for the client who's sitting down with their spouse or even just on their phone looking at their calendar and looking at your calendar and being able to find that correct time as opposed to 30 emails back and forth. So they get on your calendar, but then after they set that appointment, we actually automatically bring up the SOA so they can fill that out, get that information in there so you've got a record of it being completed before meeting with them. But then also, let's say they just close out the window and don't do it. At that point, we actually start doing outreach to them through emails, text to make sure they get the SOA completed prior to meeting. If they don't complete it, about 24 hours before the appointment, we actually cancel the appointment and then send a link to schedule. And then also once they set up the appointment, we set up an individual link directly for them for setting up for the appointment. That way you've got that extra level of security that kind of is great for HIPAA, great for everything. But it really kind of goes back to, like I said, everything we do, whether it's websites, email newsletters, social media posting, or cross-email marketing, or even our scheduler, we always take it through that lens of, how can we keep the agent being where they need to be, being compliant, everything like that. And that's really where we focus on. Most of us were actually used to be insurance agents. And if those who aren't, they've been working for us for a long enough time that they basically are insurance agents. My point is that, everything we design, we want to make sure we're not adding to an agent's stress level. We want to make sure that we're taking things off their plate and then giving them back time, giving them back, less worry about compliance, things like that. And that even, like I said, extends to our scheduler because there are so many things that's, say CMS even wants to see. It's one thing to collect the SOA. It's one thing to say I had the 48-hour rule in place there. But we also have a dashboard. So when the agent logs in, they can see their client. They can see how the 48-hour rule is observed. They can see the SOA was signed and they can download it. So they can see all this information. So if they ever do get a question from their upline or from the state auditor or CMS, they can show like, hey, I do observe all the things you want me to make sure. And that's, like I said, one thing, we're just taking that step to make sure that they're safe, we're safe, everyone's good. They don't have to worry about their license with working with us. So
Right. And that's really important because I think, when you start looking at all the different things that need to be considered in order to sell insurance, what we're talking about when we talk about coming in and partnering with other organizations or other people to help with the lift of doing all these things is to take some of that time and take some of that energy and give it back to an agent to be able to really focus on what they do best, which is selling, meeting with clients, forming that relationship, and facilitating whatever that relationship needs in order to keep that customer happy and keep them continuing to come back.
100%. 100%. Like I said, I love meeting with clients, love sitting down with them. For me, honestly, I didn't have a system like AgentMethods. So for me, I had to hire people. I physically had to hire staff to monitor different parts to make sure I was compliant. With a system like ours where I can come in and offset that cost of, say, hiring a phone person to make sure the 48 hours and SOAs are all completed for AEP, having someone come in at basically a fraction of the cost, that would have been huge to me, because, nowadays I feel like we've come to this very next level of technology where we do have systems where we can plug these things in, so we don't have to worry about it. And people really need to take advantage of them. I feel like that's the biggest thing, especially when I'm talking to agents. I talked to an agent just 2 weeks ago, going back about on the relationship marketing, and he had a very large book, huge business. And I started asking, like, so what are you doing currently, like, to keep in touch with your existing clients? And he's like, nothing. I was like, nothing. Okay. And I was like, so how do you set up like your annual reviews? Like, well, they just call me. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And I said, well, is it all like in a CRM? At least because we also integrate with CRMs to kind of pull this information for mailers. Because I was talking about our system, and I said, what CRM do you use? He goes, well, I don't have a CRM. I was like, okay, you are interesting. I said, so technology's come a lot in the last 25 years. And I said, I think we need to sit down. I said, because originally he started talking to me because he was seeing a loss in business. He was seeing people fall off. He wasn't getting new clients as much as he wanted to, and so on. And so he was really kind of looking for help. Like, how do I improve this situation, and so on. And when we had this conversation, really started digging deep into what he was currently doing and what he needed to do, it realized that there were some very easy steps to even start doing that he just had never done before, because it never crossed his mind. Because like you said, he was actively selling, he was buying leads, selling, that he never thought this idea of like retention or keeping people engaged, or that anyone would even send him a referral, was like nothing, wasn't even top of his mind when he was sitting down with a client. And I just remember telling him, like, you have slogged it out for the last 20 years. We're going to make it easy for you now.
Right. And some of us, the thing is, some of us are not planners. Some of us are not organized people. There are different ways that people do their business and how they handle their book and keep track of it. Some people love keeping it in an Excel spreadsheet. That's the thing. It's like, regardless of how good or how not so great you may be at the organization piece of it, there are, like you said, there's technology that can help to streamline so much of that now. So
I probably date myself when I always say this, but if anyone remembers Ron Popeil, whenever I say about like our system, especially our email newsletters, things like that, I said it truly is a set it and forget it type thing, where you get it set up in system. Part of my conversation always with them, like, let's get your post AEP email campaign set up for OEP, for additional sales you want to do there. Because when you get to the end of AEP, December 7th rolls around, you want to enjoy the holidays. You want to do other things. You don't want to be involved in this. So if we can set it now, when that rolls around, you're not even thinking about it. It just kicks off. And then suddenly you start seeing appointments come in after the first of the year for different products you're looking to focus on. But like you said, even if you're not a planner, having something in place of realizing, well, if I click these 4 things, it's set up and I have it set to go on, say, January 2nd. I don't have to think about it again. And you can even set it to a point where it goes the 2nd of every month. It just kicks out, And I feel like even for me, who I will fully admit, I am not a planner. My wife will agree to this too. For me, it's systems like that really make a difference for me on kind of growing an agency. Of being able to things like where I know I need to do these things. I know I need to keep in touch with my client. I know I need to be in front of them. And here's a way for something to do it for me. So I don't have to focus on it. I don't have to take every second Tuesday of the month to focus on something, because it just does it.
Right. That sounds like a great gift to give to yourself for the holidays after a very challenging and disruptive AEP this year. Just going to throw that out there as an idea. Is there anything else that we didn't touch on as far as either relationship marketing or as far as agent methods is concerned that you wanted to touch on or mention here today?
One thing that I would really kind of touch on is, I feel like a lot of times when I do presentations or I do things like this, I talk about a lot of high level concepts. Right. And remember, I talked about earlier about really finding something that's individualized to you, what's going to work for your agent and so on. So a lot of times, when I talk about all the wonderful things that Agent Methods do, I really feel like the best thing someone can do is go, to our website, agentmethods.com. There's a little button there. It says set up a demo. And the reason I say that is because once you get on with our, account executives, they can actually do two things. One, they can show you what I'm actually talking about. But number two, they can have an actual conversation about your agency to say like, hey, this is what I'm currently doing. This is what my clients like. This is how, this is my client size, age demographics, everything like that. And really have a conversation of seeing like, are we the best solution for you? Are we going to fit? Is this a good idea for kind of what you're doing? Or what are you existing doing that we can either augment or replace for you to give you that time back? So I feel like a lot of times I try to push people into those demos because then it's an actual conversation about your business, not so much, the wonderful things that marketing can do to grow any business. This is more what's going to help, specifically Rob Oxenford's agency with growing and keeping in touch with his clients. So going to our website, agentmethods.com, I'm going to say that again. You'll see Cluck. He's a wonderful little yellow chicken. There's a button right to his right. Click on it.
We do have a vast appreciation for Cluck. If you go to my Instagram, you can see how much fun Cluck and I had at these summits. But yes, if you go to agentmethods.com, literally the first thing you will see is the yellow chicken with his arms crossed. He wants you to schedule a demo. And it's right there, nice bright green CTA there for you to take action on that. Well, Rob, I have to say thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for being such a good sport about all the times that I tried to kidnap Cluck during the summits. We had a lot of fun at those presentations, but really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your expertise with us.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for having Cluck too, as always. We always appreciate it. And, one thing I always say, if anyone ever has any questions, always feel free to reach out to Agent Methods or myself. We're here to help you with growing your business. And so I love opportunities to, speak with you, get in front of people, and just kind of spread the word that, it's all about marketing and we can help. So.
All righty. And you'll be able to find the links to do all of those things in the episode notes. So, Rob, thanks again.
Thank you.
Special thanks again to Rob Oxenford and our friends at Agent Methods. If you like what you heard in this episode, or if you want more information on getting started with Agent Methods, we have links to everything we mentioned in the notes, so definitely check those out. As you're taking the time to look through the resources in our episode notes, we'd also appreciate if you double check that you're following along with our show. It's just a quick tap to follow, and then you won't miss out on any of the upcoming episodes of our show. Thanks so much for listening. We will see you next episode. The Agent Survival Guide podcast is a production of Ritter Insurance Marketing, an integrity company. Special thanks to our guest, Rob Oxenford. This episode was recorded and produced by me, Sarah Ruppel, script proofing by Tina Lamoureux, podcast designed by Urban Rivera, artwork by Vivian Zhao. Rate and review our show on Apple or Spotify.